Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo.
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. This next episode is actually something I did in my private Facebook group. If you're not part of the Healthy Lifestyle Support Group on Facebook, you definitely want to join. If you don't have Facebook, you should probably join anyway. You should probably create a Facebook just to be part of the group because it's awesome. Anyways, I went live and I talked about things to consider before going vegan. This time of year, a lot of people are thinking of New Year's resolutions and thinking that they want to make these drastic changes. And listen, it's not bad. It's not good or bad. It's a beautiful thing that you're trying to improve your health. However, I want you guys to be mindful of what is entailed if you decide you want to go vegan, things you need to consider before going forward. This episode will explain everything you need to know. If you have questions at the end, please don't hesitate to email me, tipswithtony@gmail.com, and I'll catch you on the other side. A lot of times people will basically choose to be vegan because they want to be healthier, which is great, which is a beautiful thing, right? But there's a ton of different ways to be healthy. If you're someone who eats a ton of animal products and you don't eat any vegetables and now you want to go vegan just because you think it's like a new diet, that's what I would caution you with. So it really is more of a lifestyle, and it is something that people who choose to be vegan do it for a number of different reasons. So the question you want to ask yourself is, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for ethical reasons? Maybe you're a big, one of my clients, Rachel, I've been helping her for almost a year now, and she is a huge animal lover and an animal activist. And so for her, it's not even so much the nutrition stuff, it's more or less the ethical reasons why she chooses to be vegan, and she's devoted to the lifestyle completely. And now together we work on helping her to reach her nutritional needs, because the vegan diet does lack a lot of those things. So I'm going to talk about what that is in a minute. So the number one thing I want to emphasize is that it is not a diet. Although it is a diet, it is a lifestyle. So the vegan diet is something that you are committed to doing because you have a lot of reasons behind it. Okay. What is it? It has no animal products. So I actually hear this a lot. I hear people tell me that they're going to become a vegetarian, but then I'll see them eating chicken and fish. And it's like, so you mean you just aren't eating beef? Like there's many different varieties of vegans and vegetarianism, but the vegan diet is pretty much one variety, which is no animal products whatsoever. So no dairy, no eggs, obviously no meat, no fish, nothing. So it's just only plant, anything that comes from the ground, only plants. That's the only part of the vegan diet. Okay, so as you can imagine, it can be really restrictive in the sense that you're very limited on what you can consume. And so initially people who do go vegan tend to lose weight, but after a while, once they get adjusted, the weight being vegan, non-vegan, it's actually not much different. So it's always important to ask where you're starting at. If eventually you want to get to a place where the vegan diet is something that's part of your lifestyle, but you're someone who eats a ton of animal products, I probably wouldn't recommend going straight from eating animal products to straight vegan. I'd probably recommend going to maybe like a pescatarian, so you eat fish and eggs and cheese, and then maybe a lacto-ovo vegetarian, so you no longer eat fish, but, or maybe you just cut out red meat and then you do it like that. Now, all that to say that meat is not bad for us. There's actually a lot of great nutrients in meat that we miss by being vegan. It's just that when we remove meat from the plate, we allow the presence of vegetables to be there. So if you're choosing to be vegan because you want to be healthier, then we want to make sure that your plate now doesn't just become like rice and pasta, and it becomes lots of vegetables and also lots of plant-based proteins, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So who it's not for, and then I'll tell you about who it's for. So it's not for someone who has a lot of digestive issues like bloating or loose bowel movements, because anything that comes from the ground is going to have a lot of fiber, which we talked about is really beneficial. But some people with irritable bowel syndrome, particularly on like the diarrhea side or lots of bloating, being vegan is probably not going to be a good idea. So I'm actually someone who when I first started eating healthier, I just made small swaps over time. In college, I became a vegetarian, and then I dabbled in veganism for like a year. And then I figured out that I had a gluten sensitivity. So the whole time I was trying to fix my bloating, but really I was making it worse, and it only got worse. And eventually I really had to give up the fact that I was a vegan or even a vegetarian, because being a vegan, vegetarian, and gluten-free is just way too restrictive. And I found myself always hungry because I found out I wasn't eating enough protein and I didn't get enough balance, and I wasn't getting all of the nutrients that my body needs. And so my body was relating that as cravings and as hunger, when really it just wanted nutrition. So I think that's really important. So it's a great thing to explore, but you don't actually have to go all the way vegan. You can just eat more plants and try maybe some meatless meals. Like meatless Mondays are a great option. It could be something that is beneficial to you if you feel like you maybe eat too much meat, or if you want a more variety in the diet, to kind of incorporate that in. So you don't need to go all the way one way, especially if you have digestive issues. It's probably not a good idea. People who are diabetic, who have to control their blood sugars, I wouldn't say that it's ideal. Some people would argue otherwise, but I don't think it's ideal, because most people benefit by having like higher fat and higher protein and moderate carbohydrate with diabetes. Who it is for, though, is if you have a history of high cholesterol, or you are somebody who maybe your family has a history of heart disease. You have to remember the heart disease is the #1 killer of Americans. So it's not related to the fact that not everybody's vegan. It's related to the fact that not everybody's eating enough fruits and vegetables and whole grains. So that by being vegan, you kind of make room for those things. So that's why it's beneficial. However, there's a lot of research to support the vegan diet being beneficial for those being able to reverse like things like heart disease and high cholesterol. So it kind of goes back to food being medicine. And I talked about the keto diet the other day. The ketogenic diet is perfect for people who have a history of seizures and epilepsy. So the vegan diet would be great for people who have heart disease, and it can reverse that without medication. So that's where a lot of people get confused in diet culture. It's like, this is the way to weight loss, or this is the way to that. It's like, actually the studies people are reading are the way it is to help people in a hospital clinical setting when it's necessary, and it's an alternative means to taking medication. So it's not so much a preventative thing. It's more of a treatment, actually. Preventative wise is all about balance. So you don't have to end up in the extremes and have to follow a specific diet, and you can just eat balanced. So I hope I'm making sense there. Hello, I'm interrupting this podcast with a special offer for you. So excited because there is a new platform out there for you, for anybody that is looking to lose weight and wants to work out but doesn't know what workouts to follow. Maybe you're afraid of going to the gym, you have a little gym intimidation, you don't know what to do with the weight racks, and you don't know what to do with the equipment. Well, don't worry, I have a solution for you. I have partnered up with WLWorkouts.com. So you go to WLWorkouts.com, use discount code TONY10 to get 10% off a 4-week or 12-week workout plan. And it comes with a whole guide as well as YouTube videos to show you how to use the equipment. It's mostly strength training. So if you're new to weights, particularly for the ladies, I would strongly encourage it. It's a great jumpstart for the year. Pretty positive they're on sale now for about $20 or less for the 4-week, and the 12-week, I believe, is like $24. I know that that's not the usual price, but there's a special for January. So I will just say that the special, it does expire. This using the discount code. This is only a promo for January. So I just pulled up the site right now, actually. I should have probably did that before. So usually The price of the 4-week or 12-week workout plan is around $65, but it's a special right now for the month of January. It's only $19.61, so it's about $20 in US, and you get 10% off when you use discount code Tony10. So it's definitely worth it especially if you're new to working out. But even if you're not, I totally am going to take this to the gym with me to supplement the other workouts that I do. But if you want, obviously, you're going to get the most out of it by following it from the beginning till the end, and also obviously making sure you're paying attention to your nutrition. So if you need help with that, let me know. All right, guys. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. Here's the thing. So we talked about who it's for and who it's not for. So it's obviously not for someone who has digestive issues or diabetes, or if there's someone who eats a ton of animal products and now they just think it's going to be like a diet that they're just going to go on for a little bit to lose some weight and then be better. Like that's like lose this weight, and that's actually not the case. It's also super restrictive. So I want you to be mindful that you are very limited in what you're able to consume. However, it could be beneficial for you if you have a history of heart disease or high cholesterol. So why is it not ideal? This is why I would say it's not ideal. Because, and same reason behind the ketogenic diet, which I talked about on my live this week, actually, is that there's ways to meet your needs. So for like keto, for example, it may help you lose weight, but you're missing nutrients that your body needs that over a period of time. If you're not getting those nutrients, we don't know what the long-term consequences or the side effects are. With the vegan diet, it's not as restrictive, but there are nutrients missing. So you have to make sure that you're supplementing properly, or at least eating the right foods to make sure that you're reaching your needs. Hey, Kristen. So the big things that are missing, and it's honestly not just in the vegan diet, I think anybody could benefit from taking an omega-3 supplement. Unless you're eating a fatty piece of fish 2 times per week or more, you probably are not getting enough omega-3s. So we want at least 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s every single day, something that has EPA and DHA. Now, the problem with the plant-based supplements and even plant-based foods like algae that have omega-3s, your body can't absorb it the same way in which it does when it comes from an animal source. So omega-3s are usually missing. Similar to that is iron. So although beans are a great source of iron, which is strongly encouraged for the vegans because also it has a branched chain amino acid that's not in most animal products. Beans are necessary more for the branched chain amino acid, but not because of the iron, because there's a lot of just like arguments about if the non-heme iron that comes from plant-based sources is absorbed as well as heme iron, which is found in animal sources. Okay, it usually lacks vitamin B12, and there are plant-based options like nutritional yeast that have vitamin B12, but it goes back to that same argument. Our body doesn't use it. It almost doesn't look at it as a nutrient, and our body doesn't take it in like it does from animal sources. Other things that you might possibly be low in as a vegan is calcium and iodized salt. Calcium, not so much anymore, because a lot of people tend to supplement with like a soy milk or a plant-based milk, so therefore they get calcium that way. Iodized salt is actually a salt I would recommend probably anybody to use as their salt. It's not sea salt, iodized salt. It's a mineral that is lacking from lots of our foods, so that's something that I would probably just recommend for anyone anyway. Then obviously protein. So kind of going on a soapbox here, but there's some documentaries out there on Netflix that claim that you can get as much protein in plant-based sources as you can animal sources, and like, yeah, if you change the portion of it, but realistically you'd have to eat a lot of those plant-based sources to get the same amount of protein, and then you would also get really bloated. Things like broccoli and beans are really high in fiber, and then your calories and your carbs and everything are higher. So it's actually a lot easier to get your protein from animal-based sources. Now, if you are choosing to be vegan or vegetarian, then there are alternatives that you would want to have, which is like a protein powder. Not so much vegetarian. Vegetarian is a lot easier because you can have things like eggs and dairy, which have protein. But your vegan protein for vegans, we want to do like a plant-based protein powder, something like pea protein, tofu, tempeh, soy milk, being mindful that your other plant-based milks are not going to have the same amount of protein. So that's the other thing to consider, that some vegan products are not equally used as an alternative. So what I mean by that is like you can swap out a Greek yogurt for a plant-based yogurt, but the plant-based yogurt is going to have more sugar and less protein than an actual Greek yogurt. So in that situation, it's not like you're swapping, it's not really like a vegan, it's not like a good alternative because it's not the same, if that makes sense. Another good example is the jackfruit is super popular. And I think that the jackfruit is something that if you don't know about, it's super cool. It's sustainable, like, what's that word? It's sustainability friendly. I'm like totally jacking it up. Basically, there's an abundance of jackfruit, and it actually, if you cut it before it's ripe and you kind of mix it and season it, it actually, the flavor could be, and the texture and the look could take the place of like a chopped meat, but it's fruit. Now, that's great for flavor-wise, for texture-wise, if you wanted something new, but it's fruit. So it's carbohydrates and sugar, no protein. Not that carbs are bad or sugar's bad. It's just not protein. Am I making sense? Let me know I'm making sense. So that's what we have to be mindful of, is that these vegan alternatives, even like vegan cheeses that are made from almond milk, a stick of cheese from cow's milk has about 6 grams of protein. A slice of almond milk maybe has like 1 or 2. So as long as you're making sure that you're getting enough protein in other ways, like you're using options like tofu or tempeh or seitan's really great. I'm going to bring it back to Rachel again, one of my clients who's vegan and does an excellent job supplementing and making sure she reaches her needs. We've worked together for a year. She gets everything she needs through her food and then supplements when necessary. But she actually makes her own seitan. So seitan's made from wheat. So then again, if you're someone who has a gluten sensitivity or intolerance, probably not going to be a good option for you. But if you can digest gluten just fine, then seitan's going to be great because that's going to be really high in protein without also being high in carbohydrates. Okay. So like going back onto the carbs, vegans tend to be very high in carbs. So what we want to be mindful of is that when I always encourage whole grain carbohydrates with the vegan diet, we really want to make a strong effort to make sure that we're getting those whole grains because they're going to things like beans and quinoa and lentils are also going to have protein. So although it's not the same, right? So like a half a cup of quinoa does not have the same amount of protein as 3 ounces of meat by any means. But if we're making an effort by incorporating things like quinoa and beans and lentils more regularly, if you add that all up by the end of the day, you're probably it's gonna help you reach your protein needs. Okay, so I think I talked about. Oh, wait, so I feel like talked about the documentary, so this is why I write notes. But then when I write notes, I don't feel like I'm talking to you, so I struggle with this. Do you guys like when I read off notes, or do you prefer I go note-free? Because I feel like when I do note-free, I'm more like with you guys, but then when I feel like I read my notes, it's like I don't miss anything. So I want to make sure I give you all the information. So the documentaries I kind of mentioned, they're a very biased. Like, don't fall for that crap. Like, they take studies, they cherry pick them. Oh my God. It's me and my friend who's also a dietitian. We have a joke, like we're still getting over What's the Health. And so I haven't watched The Game Changers because I literally refuse because it's just BS. Like, they're allowed to say anything and it's a lie and it's really frustrating. So the vegan diet can be great, but kind of going with The Game Changers, I'm pretty sure it like makes a stance for vegans being great for athletes. And ideally the science is very strong that although there are vegan athletes that work out just fine and they make sure they get their needs, it's not optimal like it would be from someone who eats animals. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe. It allows you to be notified every time a new episode comes out, which is every Monday and every Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.